And it's harder too. You got to realize coming in and starting in the poker now, the climate is different. The what games you're playing is different. Are you playing live at a casino like 1-2? Are you in good home games? Are you beating your games? Are you playing tournaments, which you have to realize have a lot of variance? You just got to be realistic on what you're doing, and you got to I think look at worst case scenario and then kind of work backwards. Like, so okay, if I do take the money I'm putting aside here and I go and it doesn't work out, am I out of poker?
Today I have Jeff Gross on the show. He has been around in poker for decades. It feels like decades. And he's very familiar with the high stakes scene. He's been playing high stakes now for a very long time, live and online. He is a very vivid and very active streamer. He lately transitioned more into business. So this is an episode where we're going to be talking a lot about bankroll management. He's sharing his approach to finding out whether you want to be a bit more aggressive or a bit more passive with your bankroll management, how he approached it in his past. Of course, what he has been up to lately in business, also how to create very good relationships, not only in business, but also personally, to make sure that you're surrounded with the people that support you in your journey, which I think is one of the most fundamental things to be successful. Also, his ability to work very, very productively. He is someone who has so many projects. He's not only playing poker and streaming, but also so many business projects on the side. And of course, that requires a high level of effectivity and or very high level of time management. So we talk about that, and also about sport cards. He has been very active and investing a lot into sport cards, which is a huge thing right now in America. We're also going to be talking about that and many more. So I hope you guys are really enjoying the episode. Make sure to drop a question in the comments or whatever you might intrigue you. And of course, if you do enjoy it, don't forget to smash, destroy, literally annihilate that like and subscribe button. And now enjoy the show, guys. Jeff Gross, my man, welcome. Thank you for taking the time. What is happening? What is up? What have you been up to lately? Where are you?
All right. Well, it's a lot. There's a lot going on. So yeah, let's dive into it. It's been a crazy time. So yeah, been up to a lot. I was over in Brazil with my family over the holidays, which was nice. I did get COVID. My wife got COVID, and we kind of expected that could happen. We knew that traveling about and there were some risks in being with family and different things. So that was a bit of a just one of those things. It happened. We were luckily no real issues. We're fairly keep in good shape, and everything I think is passed. So that's nice. But really just played some poker, been doing podcasts myself. So it's great to see you doing podcast. How many have you done now? How many podcasts is this for you?
Not as many as you. I haven't been grinding the podcast as hard as you do. Lately, we have been recording more podcasts. I would guess like 15. Okay. You're already over 50, right?
115, I think, is what we're at. But listen, if I had your hourly on the tables, I would probably do no podcast.
If I would have your hourly business, I wouldn't be playing poker anymore.
Well, I probably shouldn't, honestly. That's what part I want to talk about is the state of poker, what's going on, what you feel, and what you've noticed in the last bit of time, and definitely want to talk about what I have planned for some poker stuff. But yeah, man, I've been keeping busy. I've gotten really into sports cards. That's been a big passion of mine. I know we've talked a bit about that and what I kind of feel on that. So we could spend some time on that. I've been more into business. Yeah, more into business, more into being a father now. My son's almost 2 years old. Married with Amelia, who and it's great. I love family, and it's kind of hard. You start looking at, as you get older, more responsibility. Twitch and all that it's fun. It's a very big passion for me. I love it, but it's frustrating in a way, to know that I can't really come in and I'd put in that grind of like 6 to 12 hour sessions, 4, 5, 6 days a week. And that's just not really at a period in my life where I'm at right now. It's like I got family, got other priorities and other business and opportunities, and still trying to stream when I can. The podcast is also, as you know, podcast is not just a podcast. You got to prepare a bit. You got to contact the guest. Yeah. They're late. You're late. We're different time zones. You got to organize. It's not just like, oh, you turn on and go live. Got the equipment. Got to be in the right place. So there's a lot of there's a lot of different things, and there's only so much time to do some things well. And I feel like I'm a bit at times scattered and trying to do like a little of everything. And but I love it. I love content. I love people. I love doing interesting things. And I try to keep busy as much as possible and still make time for family.
I see. You mentioned being in shape or getting back into shape. How do you make sure, despite being so busy, that you stay in shape? What do your routines look like?
Yeah, I do try to, when I'm in a place where I have a trainer, I do try to like lock that in, because I find at times where if I don't set that, that I just don't do it. It's like, oh, it's 10 a.m. I'm going to work out. And then it's like, no, there's an email, there's that. I got this Trello note. Oh, WhatsApp, Discord, Skype, this, like you just kind of find a way to not do it. So I like to schedule training sessions. And when I can do that like 4 or 5 times a week. And that's something I usually do with my wife, which is nice. We get to kind of, hang out, have breakfast, train, talk, and spend time with our son, or just before that and after. So I do try to set a routine, because I think if I don't, I find myself just easily passing on that. And as you know, and you're the burpee king, and how you do these things, it's important. The mental, the physical side. Like if you have a bad poker session or a day doesn't go great, it's nice to have got that workout in, to know that you're like keeping up with your body, taking care, spending some personal time. And I think that's super important. And I think that's, I've gone stretches over the last 5 years where there's definitely times where I'm like really on it and regimented. And I feel like my overall life, whether it's poker or otherwise, just kind of goes better. And then there's times where I'm like, oh no, like I'd rather work and do this and spend this time. But if you don't carve out, an hour or so, of hour and a half or 2 for yourself in a day, whether it's meditating, working out, whatever it might be, I think that if you're not doing that it's likely going to lead to a lot of kind of issues, or not have your life in check. And balance is so important. And that's something that I think we all struggle with, to keep balance, whether it's with family, friends, poker, whatever you're doing, right? It's like you got to kind of have a plan. You got to kind of keep it at neutral and try to balance, because when you go all one way, all the other, it just kind of doesn't seem to work out. And that's something that I constantly try to gauge and keep sort of as much as neutral as possible.
Was it always something for you that was easy for you, and you have been aware of, okay, I need to, get in my physical activities. I need to have a healthy diet, be a bit more conscious about what I eat? Or was it something that the young Jeff Gross was literally giving a F about? Or
I mean, I'll just give you the real simple answer is from 4 years old, I was playing soccer on a competitive team.
I see, yeah.
Football for those European and most of the world actually, but let's just call it soccer for simplicity's sake. Since
let's call it football for simplicity. Football is
fine,
the
football. Yeah, fair enough. Whatever. The kicking game, I was playing that throughout my life, through college. So like I played very competitive travel teams growing up. I played through high school. Played.
Which position were you mostly playing head?
Center mid. Played center mid. Yeah.
So the game maker.
The
playmaker.
I like to. I wasn't very.
You were the creative part. Passing, touching.
Yes, a lot of assists and not a lot of running. Like not a lot of. I wasn't very fast, so it was like the right spot to be. So I had good endurance, but not whatever. So I played center mid. Played throughout college, and then when I was done, I ended up basically being in, I was in great shape because of being on a team and having to train and whatever. And then when I got out of college, I moved in with one of my best friends, Michael Phelps, the swimmer. So that was interesting in itself, because he's like the best athlete in the world, like 6% body fat, and I basically moved in with him and then just mailed it in. I was just like, I'm done. I played competitive sports. I've been in college, been in school on a routine, and I was just like, I'm just playing online poker. I'm gonna eat Chinese food delivery every day, and I'm gonna play beer pong when I bust my tournaments, and I'm gonna wake up at noon and just do that. So I did that for like a couple of years, where I was just like, let it go. I mean, I wasn't working out really, and I was just, I was living with Mike and just playing poker basically online. And this was sort of like, it's like 2008, still before, in sort of the golden years, 2008, 9, 10, where I was playing a lot of online poker and just kind of doing that. So I did get out of shape for that couple of years. And other than that, though, and then after actually Black Friday, which I think is interesting, it's sort of one of those things for being in the US, sort of felt like the world was falling apart for me. Cause I was like, oh, I'm living in the US, playing online poker, doing fine. And then all of a sudden I couldn't do that. And I thought, wow, this is the worst thing ever. I have no idea what I'm going to do, but it actually turned into the best thing that ever happened to me. Cause then I kind of did start traveling. I did get in shape, did play more live poker, And it just kind of like what immediately felt like the end of the world was a really big shift in my life. And I think if it hadn't happened, it could be a lot different than what kind of how it shaked out. And I'm glad it did, because I kind of got in better overall balance, better routine, better health, better and was able to travel some and go a different route than just playing online poker all the time and having some bad habits, I think.
I just got a weird thought. How good are you at swimming?
I used to go. So Mike had this thing on Fridays called Friend Fridays, where we would like go in, because it was like 6 a.m. He's the machine. He's such a ridiculous. I don't think you understands like how gifted you have to be, but also how much work and hard work you have to put in. Like
for sure.
He'd wake up at 5 every day or whatever, go train, come back, hang out, do whatever, then go train again. And like a furnace, how much he ate. But I remember going with him on those workouts. Sometimes I didn't make every one because they were like 6 a.m. start and Fridays, but like, and I'd be in there and
not a poker player's time, huh?
Yeah. Or maybe I wouldn't go to bed. Sometimes I remember not going to bed and just going with them and then come back. But yeah, I would like look over and, he's lapping me. I look and there's like someone swimming past and forth, and I'm just kind of trying to stay afloat in my little Speedo and goggles. And it was, I would go once in a while with him. But
listen. What kind of handicap would it require for Michael Phelps to put on additional weight on his body to have an even or a fair game? What do you guess? Listen, wait. For everyone that is watching, put a guess in the comments. Michael Phelps, again, I guess you're average, like, the average Joe in terms of the swimming pace. You haven't been really let's say, done this as a hobby on a regular basis. So I guess average Joe, so to speak. So everyone that's watching, put it in the comments. What do you guess? How much weight does a guy like Michael Phelps need to put in addition on his body so you have an even match?
It depends. Are you talking about?
I'm really curious. Like a
sprint, 100, like a full. What race? It matters what race.
What's the most common?
Like 100
meters.
100-meter freestyle, there and back.
Freestyle, back and forth.
He actually, funny enough, he raced Shaquille O'Neal, like the massive basketball player, and they did a show called Shaq Versus, and one of the episodes was Mike, and they like handicapped a swim race where Mike had to swim with Shaq. So that's about right. That's pretty pretty big weight discrepancy, and they did race, and it was actually they got it so it was pretty even, and it was interesting.
So how much weight does he need to put on so it would be even? What do you like? Just roughly, like I'm like 5 kilos, 50 kilos.
Yeah, he'd have to put on it'd be a lot, man. Maybe 100 pounds,
100 pounds, really?
That's 50 kilos, right?
That's too much. Or
yeah.
Do you know how heavy 50 kilos is?
I don't even want to think about it. It's not good. It would be. It's just ridiculous. Yeah, he's a freak.
I would guess I don't know, 20. I mean, 20 is a lot if you swim.
That's true. That's true. I mean, listen, it's one of those things that's hard to handicap. It's just out of the realm of possibility. But yeah, no. So that was the worst shape I was in. Probably that period of time up until Black Friday, and then things changed for me, and then I found Twitch. Like I played live basically from 2012 to 15, and then found Twitch Poker. I saw Jason Somerville, Kevin Martin, Jamie Staples. I saw Derek as well, Killingbird, and I saw at the bottom an overlay was made by Vadran. Vadran, he's a Twitch legend. He's done so much, probably done some work for you. He's done work for basically everyone in Twitch Poker, and I worked with him. He built me an overlay. We came up with a name. I said, I want to try this, and that was sort of then the next period where I basically went into Twitch Poker and dug in and just did it for a few years pretty seriously, and I try to stay in good shape while traveling. And I mean that was a grind as well, just having to travel because I couldn't play in the US, was flying around, and a lot of times so many internet struggles. With the net wasn't good. We'd get an Airbnb or a hotel and it wasn't steady download, and it was quite a journey to go through and stream on Twitch. But again, I love it, and I think it's all about balance. That's really the key word in life is balance, and that's something that I try to work on every day. And it's kind of where we're at today. And with throwing in the son, having a child, and being married, it definitely adds another pretty big chunk of responsibility into everything. So I don't know where you're at on that timeline, Ben, but you're a pretty busy guy. If you do go down that road for children, I would say just how old are you again? You're 30 or no?
31.
All right,
about to get 32 in actually 1 or 2 weeks. So
Okay.
Let's
We'll
say
have to look at
32.
events. Yeah, it's about to, get your hard grind work in because it does everything slows down a little bit when that next phase comes. So yeah, I mean, I think I don't know if you want. We might talk about this before. You do want kids eventually?
We'll see.
See, one day at a time. Fair enough. All right, let's talk about sports cards, man, because that's like what I'm most.
You want to talk about
excited
sports card? Yeah, I know. What's happening there, sports card? You said it's the next Bitcoin, or better than
Yes.
Bitcoin.
I think it will outperform Bitcoin from like 2 year, 3 year, 5 year. I would be betting on blue mint chip cards like Jordan 8, 9 rated cards, whatever. Any like blue mint blue chip card is I think going to kind of outperform where Bitcoin's at now. And I was curious. I was asking you about it in Europe. It's not really that popular, right? And that's not something that's
No,
like,
not really. Not as popular as in America. People were expecting that you also like fantasy, the betting kind of things. Also is very popular in America. I would say it's not that popular. Probably for the geeks and the hardcore fans, it's popular. But people also expected this is going to be also very big in Europe. Usually, what is big in America also swaps over, and it's people predict or presume it's gonna be a big thing in Europe as well. That was not really happening. This fantasy thing. So we'll see. But for you, I guess it's most important that it's big in America, and it's probably the market is big enough.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not. Like, listen, like I have no clue about that. Like, it's really, I am the biggest noob of all of the noobs when it comes to sports cards. So take it with a large grain of salt. So
it's all good. It's all good.
That's why you should be doing the talking about the sports cards.
I mean, I really don't have like the real takeaways are it brings back childhood memories. In U.S. basketball, baseball, football, it's such like a part of culture as a child, like playing sports, watching sports with your parents, and having teams, and then like it's just there's a lot. It's honestly the big similarity to poker as well. And what I love about cards is there's different entry points. So like right now, if someone's watching, they want to become the next Bencb. They're not congrats on your nice. I think you got third in that 25K high roller.
Thank you.
I was sweating for a big fat score, like 180K. Like not everyone's gonna play a 25K, but you can play a $10 tournament or a $1 tournament. Guess what? Sports cards, if you're passionate about it and you want to try to trade, collect, go through that hobby, you can start with grade 1s, grade 2s, grade 3 cards, right? There's all the way to 10. So there's like different levels. A Jordan 10 is going for 265K. A Jordan 9, 67K. You want to buy a Jordan 4, you can get in. I don't know how much that is even, right? But like, for example, if you wanted a Michael Jordan rookie card in a lower grade, you could buy one for a price point you could probably get in for, or from other players. So like there's different levels to come in, which is kind of cool. It's not just like, it doesn't shut people off.
Yeah. But listen, wait. What determines what grade a card is being ranked? You said Jordan 4, Jordan 8. What are the metrics? What are the characteristics that the card needs to?
Is it bent? Are the corners? Is it centered? So it's interesting.
So it's technically just about the quality of the card.
Right, the condition of the card.
The condition, yeah.
The interesting part, though, is if you were to buy a sports pack right now, or let's say you bought a 1986 Fleer. I was telling you before that like if you spent 10 grand in 1986 on a set of Fleer 1986, that's Jordan's rookie card year, that is worth over $8 million. That 10 grand you spent now, and if you bought it $2,000 or $10,000 worth of Microsoft in '86 stock, it's worth about $2 million. And this has probably actually gone up. The sports cards have gone way up in the last 4 to 6 months, but that's just kind of like a metric. The thing is though, you don't automatically get a 10. So you might think, well, if you buy a sports pack and you open the cards, right? The card is just a 10 because it's out of the case. You open the pack, it's perfect, but that's not true because not all cards were centered right, or they come off a little bit, different and what. So it's like, you don't automatically get a 10 if you take it out of the pack, which is interesting. So, I would say it's just one of those things that I believe in a lot. I remember we talked about some crypto back in the day, and just in what we bounced some ideas off emerging markets and industry stuff. And I'm a believer. And I just I could go on and on. I'm very passionate, but it's just something I think that it's something to keep an eye on. It's something interesting. Some people think it's a bubble and whatnot, but I don't really, that's not how I feel. And I would bet, I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and that's something I'm focused on right now and I'm passionate about. And I think it's cool. And I think a lot of people that are my age that are starting to have kids or even a little older that used to collect cards, it's kind of like everyone played soccer when they were a kid. At 4 years old or 5 years old, everybody played. Every kid, doesn't matter. They just were in at some point playing at school or on a team or whatever. And it's sort of the same. Like everyone kind of collected sports cards around when like my generation. Like that was just something that was fun and you would do. It kind of fell apart and was like, dumbed down. And now it's come back up, and now people are having kids. People are sharing the hobby. And I'll tell you the other thing that's really big in the U.S. is sports gambling. And maybe in Europe, people are here listening. They're like, oh, whatever. Like, I can bet at my local pub or this and that. In the U.S., gambling is now legal at a federal level. So like Michigan just passed. Other states are now, state by state has the option to legalize it because the federal law says it's okay. So like this is also part of it. People are gambling. They're cracking wax. They're cracking boxes, seeing what cards they get. So there's a gambling element to it. And you're also gambling on players. Like it's now literally like Brady's back in the Super Bowl, his 10th Super Bowl. If you own Brady cards, like that some of the cards just doubled because he made the Super Bowl. Now, if he loses in the Super Bowl, the cards might go down. If he wins, it'll even go up more. So like people are kind of not even having to sports bet. They can gamble via the cards they own. And then now the market is sensitive. It's actually moving with like the performances and what's happening. So yeah, it's fun, and I actually really love it, and I think there's a lot of I just think it's a cool thing. So yeah, sports cards. That's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, in Europe, I remember when I was younger, when I was growing up, we had these books where you could collect cards, football players, and you would stick them or you would glue them or put them into the books, and you had each team, and you had to collect like 20 cards, and you had to buy a pack of cards. Sometimes you had five the same cards of the the same cards of the same player like 4 or 5 times, and you would then trade them if someone doesn't have the card that he's looking for, right, from a certain player. That was a huge thing in my childhood. I remember with my friends we were trading cards and buying new packs, and then sometimes you had like 200, 300 players in your book that you needed to find the cards. And then there was 1 or 2 missing. So you kept buying boxes. You were opening them and just to find this one. Sometimes I had like 2 or 3 missing. I was also actually putting a lot of money in that. Like I always had to ask my parents, can I have like 5 euros? Or back then it was German mark, just to buy a pack of football players. And it was actually very exciting. So I'm not sure if this was a thing in America, or was it just about you were just collecting the cards, but you were not putting them into a book. Like they were not like.
Listen, some people would try to get
Panini. Yeah. I don't know.
Panini's big right now. Panini's back and hot, and it's they do a lot of football cards. Again, it's confusing.
Yeah.
Like soccer cards, they do that. So yeah, it's a big brand and it's big. I'm just saying, keep an eye out there. If you're listening to the podcast, one takeaway: just keep an eye on the market. Just just check it out. I think it's an interesting thing, and it's developing pretty quickly. And there's brick and mortars are popping up, and it's getting very popular in the U.S. at least. So I think that's cool. I want to ask you, Ben, about poker, because this is something that coming up. I'm going to be in the U.S. Where I'm not going to be able to really stream poker, but I do want to still do some stuff on Twitch. I want to do some hand reviews, kind of get back into studying and get kind of more into reviewing. What is your overall feeling of the landscape of, obviously you're shredding field, nothing's changing really for you, but what have you noticed overall with sort of the quality of the tournaments and just like, because obviously during COVID, right, there was a huge boom, like every major series and stuff's flying. Let's just say like now, like what you've noticed in the last post Christmas, post holidays, and what's your prediction sort of for this year? Do you feel like tournaments are going to be, is it going to grow? Is it good? Has it gotten tougher? People are getting better? Like, what's your overall feeling? Give me a breakdown. And then
what would you say? I mean, you played a little bit over the last couple of months, right? What's your impression?
Hard out there. I mean, it's hard.
You would say it got tougher?
No, I don't. I think I haven't improved. I think my results have not been what I would like. I'll be very transparent that, I had a couple big scores last year, but I played a fair amount, and, I did not have one of my better years. And I've also feel like I've worked on my game, but I don't know. I'm also doing commentary and such where I watch, and I feel like people have gotten better. I see a lot of people that are like, and also I watch the Discord group for Raise Your Edge. I'm checking in on other, there's other coaching and different things going on. And I just feel like people are playing well. Like there's some great players that are emerging. And guys you wouldn't even know or like, you haven't heard about before now are like, they've done the Raise Your Edge course or whatever they're doing, whatever course they're doing. They are, small blind, big blind. They got their ranges high and tight, and they're doing over betting and Adamo kind of stuff. And it's like, it's just, you got to be your head on a swivel. It's not easy out there. That's how I feel. People have gotten better, but then again, there's more people in poker. I feel like, again, there's sort of like a slight boom as well. So there's like some, entry level stuff. So that's kind of my overall is that I think poker is very healthy. But I think that there's some really good players. I mean, look at the WPT, Hard Rock, Seminole, third largest WPT field ever. They guaranteed $1 million. They got like over $5 million in the prize pool, 3,500 buy-ins, 1,600 something, almost 1,700 entries or whatever, 1,600 entries for a 3,500 buy-in with the glass up, everyone wearing masks and I mean, that's a good sign for poker. Yeah. People are ready to fire.
Yeah, for sure. I do believe it. I don't necessarily say it would get tough. Like if you don't study, and as you said, you're busy, you don't necessarily have the time to study as someone who's grinding full time, then of course it gets tougher. But I don't think really I'm now not talking about beginners. I think to enter poker, it might get a little more difficult from year to year, even though it's still totally possible. I just believe that once now you have reached a certain level, let's say you're a mid-stakes reg or you're an established low-stakes reg, you're beating $10 or $20 games, with the right amount of studying, I think you can actually gain a significant edge. I fear that a lot of the concepts that are now coming to the surface are being misapplied. Right. Too much GTO, not valuing the tournament live, trying to make way too many bluff catchers with very little EV, not considering ICM enough, because we see that in the big cash games, everyone is talking about solvers and bluffing frequencies and randomizing. This is not necessarily a thing in tournament poker. You see that one of the biggest winners and the guys that are constantly on these final tables are not GTO wizards, and they have figured that out. They play their hand very well. And I've also met very smart poker players along the way that know the shit much better than I do in theory, but they're not so successful. They might do well, but I won't consider them as the biggest crushers because they really struggle deviating against weaker players and really exploiting the weaker players. And, 3-betting the queen 3 suited in the right time, like just having that timing, just having the guts to say, okay, this is a good spot, I'm going to be completely out of line. Or being much tighter. It's way too much, but I need to defend my range. I need to follow the minimum defense frequency on the river. Otherwise, I get exploited. Right. Yada yada yada. This is something Adamo's doing really really well. Like he has a good feeling for the situations when to apply a lot of pressure. I also feel like he plays his image very very well. I have right. Like he does goofy stuff for sure, but I think he does it better than most players on high stakes in terms of bluffing, and I'm pretty sure he has his reasons. And sometimes when you put yourself in that situation, and I also try to think what's best against this opponent with my hand, and sometimes you just end up leveling yourself and you look like the biggest retard in the world. Mm-hmm. And then you review it. But I think when you really try to put yourself outside the comfort zone and trying new things, I think you can gain a massive edge.
Yeah, no, it's.
I remember you were forward jamming ace-4 suited against me. We were on the final table. I was like, Jeff, what the fuck is happening here?
Which hand was that? Where?
Like the party poker final table.
I 4-bet jammed you with ace-4.
Yeah, I 3-bet you from the big blind against your button open, with like 25 bigs. You had like an ace-5 suited, which is a really nice jam, and you said like. Yeah, I just don't think, he only has aces and kings. He will probably jam his ace king. So you're like, he probably doesn't have a lot of value hands. And then, I can just pick so many hands to choose from to try to apply pressure. And you just took advantage of it and you just went all in. So now if you run into aces, everyone is like, oh my God, what a stupid play. You know? But I don't know what I had. Like I had an offsuited ace or offsuited king, like also legitimate hand to 3, but it's also super easy to be out of line in these spots. I mean, if you take your
Right.
king 7 off, you have 12 combos. And
Right.
you only have 12 combos of aces and kings, and then you pick some offsuited aces. Maybe even if you mix in queens and jacks, okay, you have 24 combos. But like
Right. Yeah.
it's so easy to be out of line in these spots, and the next exploit would be just go for all in very wide. But this is where a lot of people hesitate. They don't want to put their tournament life at risk with ace 4 suited, and Adamo doesn't give a you know uh,
Right.
so
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it's also why I think poker's so cool right now, because there's so many, like, I actually get a kick out of the pads, hand reviews. Like I'll be on Instagram and like before I go to bed and I'll like, he's like does his hand review. It's pretty funny. He goes into like solver world, peel solver, and he just
yeah.
like so fluent. And it's like, it kind of makes you angry at the same time, because you realize like how, like the guys like probably yourself or him or who are so competent with peel solver and plugging hands and like that, and it just how he like talks about it, it's kind of funny. He's like, oh well, here it's 55 or 45. So it shows you too, there's so much maneuverability in so many spots where like a great player could do one thing or the other.
Yeah.
The sizings now, on turns and board textures, and it's just like you said, there's a lot of work, and you don't have to remember every spot. If you want to put in some work and kind of get a good idea, and you start getting comfortable with certain boards and sizings, you can improve a lot by doing some work. So
Yeah.
I just would say for me, personally, coming up, like when I'm not able to play on party poker in a place that's not in where I'm not able to play, like I do want to do some Twitch content. I want to work on my game. I feel like I can improve a lot, which is good. Like it's good to realize that, and not feel like, oh, I'm so good and I can't get any better, and like whatever. I'm basically like, all right, look, my results aren't exactly where I'd like to be. I love poker. I have access to some really great minds and people, and I would like to do some sort of review where I'm like working on my game, but also kind of sharing the process and experience with people, because I think a lot of people really want to know. I don't think people are super lazy. I just think they genuinely don't really know where to begin, or like they're like, well, I don't know, it's overwhelming to do a whole course, and I want to look at some spots, because like for me, when I'm very visual, so when I review like on Check the Side, I don't know if you're familiar with that program. I think we talked about it a little bit, or maybe you've seen it. Like to kind of plug in a hand review, go through and talk out loud, like, and have someone kind of critique your play. It's whatever. You could do it, plug it in your, raise your edge hand review or poker tracker 4, and look at hands or hold a manager and go through and then talk with a great player about it. And then you look at a spot where it could be like a little fix too, like, oh, how you're folding your small blind here with this hand, like you can't do that, or you're like finding some big a few things that aren't that crazy to make adjustments that could be a huge leak in your game. And I'm excited about that. Like I really want to dissect and be vulnerable and go on Twitch and replay some of my hands, talk to you, talk to Pads, talk to Luigi, talk to whoever that is a respected poker mind, and hear their thoughts. And it might look silly. It's going to be like, oh man, Jeff's a fish in spots, or how could he do that? Or, I'll have to maybe claim misclick in a certain spot or something, but I'm okay to like put it on, put it out there and just sort of say, hey, look, I'm working on my game. I want to get better. I'm not able to play like online poker for a bit, and I do want to stream and have people kind of get to review along with me on spots and take a look. So that's something I'm actually excited about doing, and moving forward and kind of doing some review and trying to brush up on the game a little. I think like take a little time off for a month or so of not really playing, but studying, doing review, focusing on other areas of my life, and sometimes it's nice too to stream for like 1 to 3 hours, right? Instead of like, all right, I'm grinding for Sunday for 12 hours. Like today, I'm going to go on Twitch. I'm going to stream for 2-3 hours, do a couple of hands, talk to a
Cash
couple
game,
people.
or what are you going to be streaming?
And it's going to basically be just like almost a variety show. Like I'll call in, talk a little bit about whatever, and then I'll chat on the phone with someone, have a guest call in, talk about one of their hands or a spot they played, and then also look at my own hands and basically, review like a run from a 2K or a 5K tournament that I went deep in, and take a look at how, someone like yourself or Pads or Luigi, anyone like I was mentioning, or Jonathan Little, whoever, BBZ, just other guys and people that are respected in the community, and have them kind of go through hands with me that look like, that I wasn't sure about. So, again, I don't know how well it'll do. I don't know how many people watch, or versus watching a live tournament run where they want to see a big score and they want to see, coolers and bad beats and exciting things. But if someone wants to get better at poker, I think it'll be fun to have them come in, watch me like sort of live review, and either way it'll be good because I'm going to do it and I'll just kind of be out there. So yeah, I'm booking you. I'm auto booking you for some of those. So be ready for that. And
Sure.
we'll, it'll be fun. So that's kind of what I want to focus on in the upcoming months, in the next 2-3 months, is really kind of deep dive review. And trying to get back to where I feel very confident about my game. I can talk through hands and say whatever, but like I want to be at a spot where I feel like I'm back to, feeling like I really know what's like going on. You can almost take a break, right? And get caught up. Like I feel like if you just stop playing poker for a few years and you just hop back in, you might even be in the right spot. Cause like the game's constantly evolving and, the 3-bet, 4-bet, 5-betting to just flatting when people 3-bet you. So like the game's like, I feel like it's like, it used to be every year or two. And now it's like every couple months, things are changing. So, you gotta, if you want to, population tendencies change a lot, or at least they seem to change in spots. Like you watch one guy do something and you see Bencb streaming at 25K and now he does something and you get a little look at it. And you're like, oh, that's not what I'm doing. I'm going to try this. And like you said, people probably don't apply it right a lot of the time. That's why I think it's so great. Cause like you see someone do something in one spot, it could be a different stage of the tournament, could be a read versus the opponent. And then all of a sudden you got guys blasting off or, punting and stuff. And there's a lot of crazy stuff going on the streets out there. I'll say that. Like you definitely see, I'm sure there's hands that really shock you at times, when you're playing.
Yeah, for sure. That's something you have to be very careful about if you watch someone playing that. I don't know if it's how it is for other streamers, but I definitely try to play as best as possible against that very opponent I'm in a hand with. So you should always take it with a little grain of salt. Of course, very often I just have my standard game plan, and then but I'm also sharing it. Like usually I would say, okay, this is something you shouldn't be doing on low stakes. This is something works really well against regulars, because they might not be aware of what is happening here, or this is a spot that is highly overbluffed. Usually I share that so I don't hold anything back. But of course, if I run deep on the final table, I'm not going to be like, this is what I'm going to do against Adamo. This is what I'm going to do against Jeff Gross, or this is what I'm going to do against Jason Kuhn. It's like...
well, you could just bundle those three names in the same category, right? I mean, those guys are all basically, it's like, here and there.
Almost no difference.
Yeah, it's almost no difference. So yeah. But what was I gonna say? Actually, funny enough, a hand I was watching your stream. I think it was the 25K, but then you had the 3200 WPT, and Mr. Dan Shak 3-bet you off your ace king. You opened. He 3-bet to 8 blinds off 30 blinds, and then you ripped ace king, and then he called off with 9-10 of diamonds, and I think whatever, right? He won the hand. You're kind of like. And that people were like going nuts, and then you were kind of like, when he 3-bets to 8 blinds out of 30, he's sort of committing. He called it off, and like I actually was doing the commentary for the WPT final table, and sure enough, Mr. Shak was there. I think he was chip leader going to the final table, and I was like, wait a minute, I remember this like wildly, the guy made a pretty wild play in my mind, and got there, and then sure enough, he was chip leader though at the final table, and he ended up getting third, I think, but for a nice healthy like 200 something 20 something thousand or 200 something thousand. But I wanted to check on that hand with you, because like on your stream I remember you saying it seemed to it was not like necessarily a standard hand, but once he made it 8 blinds he was sort of committing. What were your thoughts on that hand? Really,
it's definitely not a punt. I mean, it's definitely very, very marginal. I would not do it, but like for me it's not a punt, because you rejam essentially 10-9 suited. I mean, if I have queen 10 off, if I have ace 10 off, even if I have ace jack off, like, which usually would be defend against a 3-bet, and I'm going to be shoving ace king, I'm going to be shoving ace queen, maybe 9s and 8s, so he's not like in a terrible shape. So he might still fold, but it's very, very close. So with a little bit of ICM consideration, maybe he gives himself an edge. He should be 3-bet folding. But to me, that's not a punt. To me, a punt is... People always think about absolute hand strength. Like, oh, he did this with 10-9 suited. This must be bad. But think about it. It all matters about the EV. It all matters about the odds that you get and the fold equity you generate. And you just, 10-9 suited. If he just rips it in, I think it's probably slightly plus EV against me, because I value my tournament life. And I mean, to be honest, like his line actually looked quite strong. So I'm not sure what I would be doing with sevens and eights. Like usually I would always call against a three bet or maybe four bet jam. But once he picks that sizing, it really looks committing. And then I put him on tens, jacks, ace king, ace queen. So with eights or nines, you're really puking. And I would definitely in such a tournament sometimes find the hero for it. But then I also know it's Dan Shak, I have seen stuff on TV, the famous hand against Vanessa Selbst. So against a guy like him, once I've seen that, I'm not going to make big folds. Never. Unless I've seen he has changed his game tremendously. It's just, I think, the nature of the personality that he likes risk and he likes to, spice things up. And that's where I just simply going to adjust and say, like, I'm not going to fold ace queen in this spot. I'm not going to be folding tens. Because there is the slight chance that, he wants to do something fancy. He wants to take a high risk. And then you have the other player type who is not going to take these risks. And that will certainly make good or much tighter laydowns.
When you say you value your tournament life, you're just saying in general because you had him covered, obviously.
I mean, also my stack size in that kind of spot. Like I have 60 big blinds. I can leverage my edge post flop. I can still 3-bet a lot. I can defend against 3-bet. Once you get into that 20-30 big blind zone, it's more often pre-flop all in, reshoving, call. You're gonna get reshoved on. You can't really call that many all ins anymore. Right. So even if I have 70-80 big blinds and I might lose 40 big blinds, I still take that into consideration. It gives me a much better maneuverability in all, whether it's pre-flop or post-flop. So that's what I mean by I value my tournament life or my stack. And you can also apply more pressure on a 50 big blind stack because it's how it is. Like we don't necessarily enjoy playing against the stack that covers us in a 3-bet pot because once the money goes in and we lose, we're out.
For sure. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, like I said, I think poker tournaments, like I don't think poker tournaments are going anywhere. I just think like no matter what, it's even, the mentality as well. Like let's take that 25K. Let me ask you a question because I think it's super interesting. Like in those tournaments, do you feel like they're more ego driven or at some point do you think like, because I mean yourself, you could throw in a lot of big names or really like people who know are just world-class players, right? Bonomo, Sam Greenwood, Adamo, whatever, right? You can name them all. Like they're all very good players. And is it because there's some players, the value comes from some of the guys that just maybe aren't as strong? Or like, do you think generally at that level, do you think like a Bonomo and a Greenwood, like, do you think guys are like, yeah, I'm beating these guys like at a decent clip? Or is it just more that there's some value in some of the satellites and some of the other stuff? Because, it's kind of tough to, at some level, I just feel like there's not a ton of differentiating the world's very best. But what do you think on that, just in general? Not necessarily like, what do you think the mentality is?
Yeah, for sure. I think for a lot of players, it's simply just battling against the best and also learning from it, which I think is a very noble thing. To also, I might not be necessarily plus EV, but I will learn from it, and ultimately, I will become one of the better players that will beat the field. I definitely do believe that there are some players who think they're plus EV, but they're clearly not. I mean, even I might overestimate myself. I wouldn't say I'm, I think it's just, it's not that I know. I think based on the way I see people playing, the way I perceive myself and my opponents, I would say I beat the field and I have a decent win rate in those games. But again, there's so much involved. It's your perspective, it's biased, and that's why I like to constantly get feedback from others, engage in hand discussions to see if there's something coming up that I'm not aware of. Because at the end of the day, you need to have objectivity, and you can only gain that if others judge your game. If not, even if you think you beat the games, you actually might not. And we can't say for sure because we don't know exactly how everyone else plays. Of course, I see big ICM blunders over and over again on final tables and final two tables. So that's why I especially in the late game, I think probably with higher chances that I beat the field very well because I just have such a massive sit and go background and I've been running ICM sims over and over again. And So, what is your feeling about these games?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of like you said, like these are a lot of guys and players in there. You got to remember when there's a 25K online, there's people playing them. There's some action being sold a lot. Also, a lot of these guys are beating the games they're playing. Right? There's a lot of tournaments online, different buy-ins. So people are winning at a high clip or a high ROI on 1Ks and 500s and 5Ks or whatever. So like, yeah, it's kind of like a king of the mountain thing. Like, all right, like, yeah, I don't think I'm printing in these fields, but guys are in there and just like, let's gamble it up a little bit. And, at that level, guys can sell action easily. Like anyone in there that doesn't want to take the risk 25K, like they got backers or people that'll take a piece or they swap some or whatever. Right. So it's like, it doesn't, it's not quite as a crazy thing. And, it's big money up top too, right? That was like 450,000 or something. And you got 180 for third and second was 280 or whatever it was. Yeah. Like, and actually I think like almost 20% of the field cashed, like 11 people cashed, for which I don't know. What are your thoughts on like a dream payout structure? Do you think it's a little better to give like closer to 20% in a field like that? And does that more appealing to you, less, or what do you think is like the right way to go about payout structures for those for the high rollers?
I think for me personally, for my own EV, the flatter the structure, the better it is. If you have a good understanding of ICM, you should be trying to play games you should favor games where you have a very flat payout structure, even like 20-30%, not so top heavy though. Because a guy like Adamo, he very often gets first or last. His playstyle is very high variance. So I'm not saying he's bad in ICM, it's just a different playstyle. And I think for him, a more top heavy payout structure might probably be more suitable. Because on average, he will be first more than others, but also more often 9s or 8s more often than others, if we talk about final tables. And I also think he's probably going to be busting early on in tournaments more than others because of his play style. But then again, like if he has a stack, he's running it deep. And that's, I think, where he makes a lot of money, or he has very good win rates. Again, just based on my perception, right? I might be totally wrong.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes perfect sense. And yeah, I think that's a big thing in poker too, realizing, spots to take, where it makes sense to gamble and why the top 3 spots are where the money's at. And, if you're finding getting a lot of 8th or 9th through 15th or 10th through 12th in various field sizes, you got to look at that and finding, are you not jamming? That's something that I always look at my game. It's like, all right, I'm passing like Jack 10, Queen Jack suited for 20 blinds, 18 blinds, like certain spots you just gotta, maybe you're passing, or low pairs, ripping with 30 blinds or 25 blinds, in spots that you're just supposed to, or that are good to do. And, you're going to get knocked out sometimes. You're also going to double up and or just take down the pot. So,
how was it for you at the, sorry, you wanted to say something?
Oh, no, that was it.
Okay. How was it for you at the beginning of your career when you started playing poker in terms of bankroll management? It's also a very highly requested topic that people ask me, hey, Ben, bankroll management, how am I supposed to do that? Was it easy for you, or was the young Jeff rather loose with his bankroll management? And what kind of advice do you have for everyone that is watching to find your level of risk aversion? What kind of bankroll management the player would feel comfortable with? Was it something that came naturally? You just know, okay, I need to know what to do, like I have 100 buy-ins or whatever, or was it just something you were adapting constantly?
I had no idea what bankroll management was. That when I was starting, I was playing.
No, not necessarily when you were starting, but when you started taking it more serious. I think every one of us, when we started, we just screw bankroll management, one buy-in, the lucky bing. But once you started
okay. Once I got a little bit of a roll or something going, that I was sort of I would just always sell some action. I never really put too much in play, maybe even too risk adverse. But you hear a lot of poker players say they went broke many times or this and that. Like I luckily, knock on wood, I never like that was not something that I was dealing with. I would sell action. I was, had stakes at certain points, or would sell pieces. So that was just something that I never really considered and didn't want to go that route. But in terms of my advice for people starting or really getting into poker, I think it's important to separate sort of life money and life roll from poker roll. That's just
Yeah, that's very good.
By default, like you got to do that, and it's harder too. You got to realize coming in and starting into poker now, the climate is different. The what games you're playing is different. Are you playing live at a casino like 1-2? Are you in good home games? Are you beating your games? Are you playing tournaments, which you have to realize have a lot of variance? You just got to be realistic on what you're doing, and you got to I think look at worst case scenario and then kind of work backwards. Like, so okay, if I do take the money I'm putting aside here and I go and doesn't work out, am I out of poker? Am I back to my job? Am I part-time? Do I have affiliate revenue? Do I have other areas of income? Is there pressure with my family life? Do I have a wife? Do I have children? Am I 40 years old? Am I 30 years old? Am I 20 years old? Am I 18? You know, if you're the younger you are, the more risk you can take, right? It's like if you try poker, you do it part-time or full-time, it doesn't really work out. It's not the end of the world. If you're 35 years old and you got a wife and 2 kids, you know, it's going to be hard for you to just dive into the poker world and be like, all right, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Or, you know, that. So like, I think it's like it's just like that always question to me is it's so tailored to the individual that I can't really give like an overall other than that. That would be my advice, that, you know, you got to, be realistic in the games you're playing, try to establish sort of a win rate or an understanding of what you can expect. And then you have to kind of pivot from there and decide on that. And then, you know, whether it's selling action to people, taking, you know, like same thing. If you're playing $50 or $100 buy-ins, but you want to play a 3,200 WPT, you know, play some satellites. Satellites are great value. You could just chalk it up as whatever. And then when you get in, or if you are able to get in, you could, you know, sell pieces to people or lock up some of the money and decide how much risk you want to take in the tournament. So like, you know, I think I think it's important too, whether you're a cash game or a tournament player. I think it's important to do a little of everything and try other things, because it gets kind of boring. If you're a cash game player and you're even winning, you know, fire in a tournament here and there, you know, you'd be surprised. Maybe you might have a natural knack for it. You might run well and you could really level up. And if you're a tournament player, I think it's important to also be able to play some cash games where you're going to find if you're a winning player, you're going to be consistently picking up some money. And I think it's good to have a balance. I think if you do all one or all the other, it gets a little boring and also, monotonous. And I think that that's important to kind of like mix in some fun or some different variation to it. And then of course you can always hedge yourself and sell some action, or, you know, if you have any bit about your game and people know that you play, usually you have friends that would like action, or people within poker that are looking for some action too. So you can find ways to sort of hedge and take down variance. And I would just, you know, I think it's important to do that, not just do one thing always the same. That's what I think.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something I'm also very intrigued about is, since I know you're a very busy man and you're still active in poker, you have a family, you're involved in so many businesses, and I feel a lot of us are struggling with managing a busy schedule, being productive. Is it just something for you? Yeah, I just, you know, go from project to project, or is it something that you needed to introduce or incorporate some routines or habits in your life that would guarantee? Do you have like a journal, like to-do list? Is there anything that you're doing or that you would recommend doing to people out there, especially when it comes to studying, where we really need to schedule our time, right? Scheduling playing poker, scheduling time with our loved ones. How do you manage to get all the shit done that you're doing?
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, just like, again, all of us, I think we all struggle with balance. I think we all could look at our day from a 10,000 foot view and look at it and say, oh, like, I don't need to do this. I don't need to be on social media as much. Oh, like I could get 30 minutes less of sleep. You know, like I got a lot of things that I haven't accomplished that I want to, like, even it's embarrassing. I haven't learned Portuguese. My wife, I met her in 2014. My son, you know, he's 2 years old. He's probably close to me. He doesn't speak many words in general, but we're on about the same level. And, you know, there's certain things that you have to put in order and what's important, set time out for. And actually I had a call with Coach Bauman, which I know he's with Raise Your Edge. You did a course. Really? So I spoke with him. I worked with Elliot Rowe. These are one of the big things about productivity, trying to find the right balance between doing a lot of everything or some things very well. You know, I think, to answer your question, you know, like one of the tools I use that I highly, highly recommend is Trello. I think I've mentioned to you before. I don't know if I have or if you use it or know of it, but it's called Trello.
Yeah, we're using it for business. Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, I'm not using it personally though. That is my Trello, my journal. That's where I put everything. I like the old school,
Yeah, I did that for a while. There's actually something called Day One Journal, which is pretty sweet. Like it's a unbelievable app where it like ties in your Instagram or in your whatever, and you can write, put pictures. It'll automatically. It's a very cool thing as well. I did that for a while. Honestly, I haven't kept up with as much, but Trello I have for every area of my life, like investments, accounts, money, numbers. I have my assistant and stuff where they'll be on there. They tag me because the messages I try to minimize like messaging and WhatsApp and all that. So finding ways like Discord, different tools that you can kind of separate into sections where it's like, all right, here's for work, here's important, here's urgent, here's like WhatsApp, because when I get a WhatsApp or a Telegram message, like I instantly see it and respond to it. So I try to, separate that. So Trello is a cool tool and not very hard to use. Once you get it, ties between your cell phone. It's an app. It's got on your iPad and then on your desktop. So that's the tool I use to kind of organize stuff. But honestly, like I said, there's times where I get my life out of whack and I have to kind of get to reset because I say like, oh wow, I haven't spent as much time with my families. Like, or oh wow, I'm just like not studying poker or playing even poker. So the optimal is to get to neutral, and I think that it's important to talk to someone like a Coach Bauman or Elliot Rowe, or have just someone you can sort of talk and bounce off ideas, or whether it's your loved one, your partner, whatever it is, like that you can check in and say, hey, how am I showing up? Are we spending enough time together? Like Fridays, we're gonna do something with, like, have some sort of check-ins, because it's really easy to just kind of go through the motions, and like the days pass, especially with COVID, quarantine life, where everything kind of blends together, and it's just kind of like, people aren't really doing much, not traveling, you're in one place, and it's kind of easy to just go through the motions and waste time, I think. So I definitely, I'm constantly working on that, trying to figure out how to be more effective, how to optimize time, how to build schedules around people that are important in my life to make it work for them. And that, that's one of the things with poker, right? Like myself are pretty flexible. I mean, granted, Sundays grinding, or, you have coaching or set meetings, but ultimately you can kind of build your own schedule.
Yeah.
And, life's an enrollment game. You're enrolling people into what you want to do. Ben wants me to do a podcast at this time. I want to do this. Let's do that. Come earlier, like whatever, like you're enrolling people in what you want to do, but you got to kind of have some compromise and be compassionate and try to work with people so it's a win-win for everyone. But ultimately you get to build your own life. You get to build your own schedule, and you get to, kind of call the shots if you want. And I think that's important to take some time, map out your schedule, map out what's important. And there's always time for what's important. I could have learned Portuguese, I could have done it. I haven't done it yet. Not proud of it. I could be better at poker. I could put more time into poker, but other things I prioritize. And it's important to be honest. You need to really be honest with what you're doing and realize you're making choices all the time. And, there is time for what's important. So figure out what that is, and then go from there. And then, golf. Like, I wish I golfed more. I haven't really golfed. I was like I started taking lessons. I want to do it. There's reasons why it's good to do, but that's not really it's not feasible right now. That's not like, I'm not spending 3-4 hours a day golfing. It's just not where I'm at the moment, and what makes sense. So, I think that's just like a very important thing, to be realistic and to schedule and, get organized. Find some tools that help your mind. I don't think notes work very well. They get buried. It goes down, vertically. Trello for me is horizontal. You have your tasks, you have your things, slide it over, right? Like as it gets done, and then you can go back and easily find it. So that's what works for me. I think it's important to have some tools and things to help manage, like not just the calendar, like something practical, tangible, that you can see, visualize, and works for you. And for me, that's Trello, but that helps me a lot.
Yeah, I also think that for a lot of people, because I get this a lot, but Ben, poker is so important to me. I'm so passionate about it. I really want that. Listen, like, can you imagine how many messages I've received over the last, like, when did I start Instagram? When did we start with Raise Your Edge Poker Instagram? Maybe 3 years ago. And right. Twitter and emails, how many messages I've got. Ben, I'm going to be working so hard. Like, believe me, you're going to see me in 2 years. We're going to be playing against each other. I haven't seen one of these fuckers just sending me these messages, man. Just shut up, put in the work, and prove with your actions. Like, I have seen like countless, like I would say over 100. None of them. Not a single that, hey Ben, here, that was me, I messaged you. Usually the ones that made it, you're just silent. And it's like, here, you know what? I'm trying. I try my best and see where it goes. And then they're not gonna make like big promises or big words. It's like, dude.
It's so true, man. The ones that talk, like, I'll just give like a parallel to that. And this is kind of an off topic, but I had someone, it's the same thing. Like, I'll just leave it at this, but there was some threatening, some people that like bark big, right? They threaten people. They're like, oh, like I'm going to, this or that, or those aren't the guys you got to worry about. It's the silent ones that like, if they, they're like, that are dangerous. And the same applies in anything. Like, exactly. It's like anyone can talk, anyone can say this, like, I want to do this. I mean, listen, there's times too. That's why I prefer to just do and not talk, because like once you start saying like, oh, I'm going to create a big podcast, or I'm going to become a major Twitch streamer and all this or whatever, right? Like whatever you're doing or want to do, it's like, it's okay to set goals. I've seen you've talked about this too, and why you don't with the goals and stuff, but like, it's just like to put it out there, you put pressure on yourself. You also,
it's more about the mindset you have with the goal. It's not like,
it's a negative free roll almost, like you'd rather do stuff and be just kind of do it. First of all, you got to love it. You got to want to do it. And then from there, you got to create a space that's possible. But yeah, the people that talk and say like whatever, it's like, most of the time it doesn't work out. Now that might work for some people where they feel like by saying that it's going to like put in the universe, and they read the secret and they want to, expand and become whatever. But yeah, the majority of people, I agree with you completely. I think it applies in all areas of life, really. It's like the people chat and it's actions speak louder than words, that whole deal. And it's, I'm with you. I'm aligned. Same thing. And how do you deal with that too? Like, do you ever find yourself like you get messages, private things? I mean, you try to find systems to stop that. But like Twitter and stuff, DM you, or like, I must get all the time. And like, sometimes you can't like go through every one. It's just not possible. And then it becomes a dialogue. You respond to them or something, then they respond. Like, so how do you deal with that?
I would say I've developed a very good sense of differentiating between someone that just wants to chat a little bit, is bored, he just wants some attention, even though if you ask a question. Sometimes people ask me, do you provide private coachings? I mean, dude, listen, we have a website. Go the fuck to this website, check out what we offer. And anything that is missing, you can ask. But don't come to me and ask me usually that's for me a red flag, and I say I don't take new students. Because I also don't want to offend them. But like, do I really want to work with someone who already starts wasting my time from the very first meeting on? No. Right? Or they essentially ask me questions that we have a support team for. It's like, I don't have time for that. So usually like support related questions, I don't answer. I don't have the time for that at some point anymore.
Right. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Also, like, you don't want to snap. You don't want to snap at people or whatever, but it's almost like they're not realizing, same thing. Like I'll have like giveaways and stuff. And sometimes I just like don't want to even do them, because like someone will win a giveaway and then, it'll be like less than 24 hours. And they're like, hey, like, I haven't got this ticket. Can you check on this? And then it's even gotten to the point where someone will win a ticket on my channel, and then they'll like send me a message a month or so later. They'll win like a random giveaway from Party Poker or something. And then they're like, hey, this hasn't come through. Can you check on this for me? And in my mind, I'm just like, are you for real? You think I'm customer support for like Party Poker? Like, it's just like at some point, like, what do you, and then I realized though, they're not probably like, they're not a bad person, or they're not mean, or they're not an idiot. They just like, that's just like their way of thinking. But it's just like, man, if you took care of all that and answered and did all that, you just never be able to live.
Yeah.
You just like, and it's kind of frustrating, like you give a little bit and then I feel like they want more and take them. But listen, I get it. I understand too. It's sometimes you just have to like just breathe, and there's always three sides to a story, and just kind of move on and not deal with it. But that's the trap. When you get involved or you reply, you're like, well, are you crazy? Like, come on, man, just go to my site. Then it's like you're being reactive, and it's like, that's not the way to handle it. So I like that, just the default answer, like kind of, hey, like whatever. And then, like you said, a red flag, and that's not someone you're probably going to be engaging with and talking with. So.
And it doesn't only apply for, let's say, for us that provide something and you get support related questions. I think it's also for everyone in your everyday life, when you surround yourself with people that might not necessarily the ones you actually need right now. But, they always have been your buddy, but, everyone changes throughout time, and they You know, I feel like people get too stuck in, oh, he used to be my friend in school, so now we're going to be friends forever. And you stick around with toxic people that are not necessarily supportive in your journey. So the underlying principle here that I'm trying to communicate is you need to set boundaries. It's like, hey, you know, this and not further. Can be as simple as I'm not going to be responding to support questions. That's why we have essentially 24/7 support. We have a live support in Discord where we have an insane support. We have email support. You know, you can message on Instagram, Raise Your Edge. We have Facebook, Raise Your Edge. You don't need to message me on Twitter, on Instagram and asking me questions that also, if you just put in 5 seconds of work, you could figure out for yourself. Right? I need to invest 30 seconds of my time to respond. Do you think that's a good trade-off? No, it's not, right? And usually the people are recognizing that. And that's where you said earlier, sometimes people also ask me questions more private or ask me for my opinion. And I think with the experience, I've developed a good sense of, okay, this guy, he just wants attention. He actually doesn't really care what I have to say. He just needs a bit of attention. And I'm not there for that. And then usually I also very often get very genuine requests, people, you know, having a problem or asking me something. And then I take my time. Like I write like a super long message to them. You know, I have a group of people that I work with for free, that I help with stuff on a regular basis. We have calls and we just chat about and then what they can do better, and we exchange stuff. So it's not that I don't want to take my time to help people, but I don't want to help time wasters and then not having the time for people that actually really need the help. You know, I want to be efficient with that time. It's like if you're a charity organization, you only have a limited amount of money available. So you want to make sure it goes into the projects that you think is going to be worth the money, or it's going to be, you know, with the most effective use. And this is also how you need to see your time, man. Like, you're a charity for your own time, and you need to decide, what am I spending my time at? And at the beginning, I was responding to everyone because I enjoy helping people, but I realized like it doesn't help them.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're just ticking a box that doesn't, not really effective. It's not effective for you, not effective for them, and it's just, it's
how is it for you? Like, how do you have any kind of rules or something in place where you say, okay, this is for me a red flag, or these are the boundaries that I set for myself to make sure that you are not engaging in something that is not necessarily worth your time?
I mean, I try, again, same thing. I try to answer everyone or go through on YouTube or whatever, and I'll, like, you know, read some of the comments. I try to hit the thumbs up and, you know, just go through it. And I have a team as well that sort of like looks over stuff if something looks really interesting or important. So I try to monitor it, and I try not to go too deep in it, but I like to keep an eye on it. Like after my streams, I do like live now tweets. I do generally, when I finish, I'll like scroll through everything. I hit the hard thumbs up or whatever, and I'll look at it, and I can check on stuff, or I'll reply to some things I feel are genuine, or someone has a question or makes a statement. But it's just there's almost so much allocation of time, and I just try not to go down the rabbit hole. It's called rabbit hole on certain things, and it's the same thing with business and all that. Like, I love doing projects. I love meeting and talking to interesting people, but you realize, like, anytime you dive into something new or a new business idea or venture, there's paperwork, there's now another relationship, you know, there's time, there's explaining, there's what. So it's like, there's only so much time. And I think at this point, like, I'm pretty much, I've tried and experimented with a lot of different ideas and concepts and business stuff. And I'm just sort of like happy where I'm at. And I'm really, really not looking for additional things, you know, like I realize that more is not always better. And like, I'm kind of at the point now where I'm in a few different industries, a few different type of opportunities. And I'm kind of just like focusing on those, because I think that that's the way to go. Like, I just like the Gary V mentality, you know, like the guy's in 400 things and he's everywhere and he's got 30 people working for him. And that's just like, it's like he makes it work, and it's just craziness, but it's not for everybody. And I feel like I was kind of heading that way, where it's just like, it's just too much, you know, like I look up and it's just like, right now I don't even know where to go. And it's like, I'm trying to like, it's like FOMO. The fear of missing out. I genuinely have that. Like, that's like, people use that term. It sounds kind of quirky and funny, but like, it's a real thing. Like, I'm always the last to bed. Like, when I was in college, I lived with roommates. Like I was the last guy asleep every night. Didn't matter if it was 12 a.m. or 4 a.m. Like no one's like I'm the last guy. I don't want to miss a thing. I don't want to miss a thing. And I feel that way with action. I got some friends in home game like LA and stuff, and I don't want to miss something. Hey, you want 5% of this game tonight? This guy's bug rolling around me. Do you want this? Like I just don't like to miss stuff. And like I think there's something in that it's a bit of an issue. Like that's something I'm trying to work on and talk about because I do want to try to relax more. I do want to try to just realize you don't have to do everything. You might miss buying a card, or you might, a sports card might go off on a thing, or you might miss a piece of action, or you might miss a good bet. And like, it's okay. It's not a big deal. Like you don't have to do everything, and calm down a bit since my son's born, and just kind of, that's like my main focus is that. And, but yeah, I think that we all suffer from that a bit, like FOMO and just like, and also being a bit scattered. So I think like, I got to ask you, when you go through and you actually like working, you look at a spot or a hand, or you talk something, like, do you put your phones away? Are you just like studying for an hour at a time where like, that's it? Or do you kind of have your like WhatsApp web and Telegram open? Or are you just like immersed?
No. Usually I would have Discord open because sometimes there is something that, people message me like from my staff that need something. And, since I still have a bit the poker player sleep cycle, I'm especially during like regular working hours, I still want to be available, but right. I don't have anything else open. Like sometimes after 20, 30 minutes, if I, for whatever reason, I feel a little bit distracted, I say, all right, I take my 5 minutes, I check whatever is going on, and then I continue. But I really try to set blocks. Sometimes just 10 minutes. It's like, okay, for 10 minutes, I'm going to be very focused. Sometimes it's for 50 minutes. Sometimes I can do stuff straight for 1 hour. It's very different. But I'm not too hard to myself and say after 20 minutes, okay, I don't feel so focused. Like I'm going to push through another 40 minutes.
Right.
I think this is where we don't need to be so hard on ourselves.
Yeah. No, it's...
listen, like... I think the most crucial thing is the ability to say no. To say no, I'm not going to study this spot. But you can study a million spots. You need to focus on one. Same in life. The ability to say no to other projects. To say no to meetings. To say no to collaborations. So many people want something from you. You might not be involved in so many businesses as Jeff Gross is, but also in your everyday life. Your friend is calling you. Hey, you want to come to this party? You want to hang around? You want to do this? You want to do that? You got to say no. I think, was it Warren Buffett? I don't know. Someone, and I can't quote it exactly, but it was something along the line of the very successful people just have the better ability to say no. Just like relentlessly saying no and focus on the things that matter to you.
Kevin Hart has a good skit, like a good talk, like piece on that, right? Because it's like, it's funny because like what you do yourself, I mean, honestly, what life in a lot of the business world are just kind of moving forward. It's about access, right? Who do you have access to? You want to be able to talk to people that know what they're doing in money and in business and investing, who's successful. You want to have access. You want to have good friends that you trust and act like whatever the word access. But at some point when you get to it, like if you work hard and you put yourself in good spots and you're around good people, it's like at some point you're just going to get a lot of good opportunities and like what might seem. And then it's like you get to a point where you work hard for that, but then once it's there, it's like, then you just can't do everything. And you also gotta, you gotta say, no, you're right. It's a very difficult thing, right? Like, Ben, I want you to come on this Twitch show I'm going to do. And, sure, we film a hand or we do something once in a while, but you got a jam-packed calendar. And like, I want to do this show and I want to have other people, like at some point it's like, man, like, is it going to work or what are you asking from them? Is it 10 minutes? Is there planning? Is it like recurring commitment? So it's like at some point, it's just like asking someone for something is a bit annoying. And also you have your friends, right? Your friends and people you trust that are your friends. And you don't want to ask them for stuff. Like this is something I saw with Phelps. Like so many people would ask me, hey, can you give me an autograph from Mike? Hey, can you send me, like do this? And it's like, to them, it's just like an easy thing because like I live with Mike, right? Yeah. And like, or I know Mike well. And it's like, at some point too, it's like, as I got older and as I got to know him better, and as you realize like a guy like that just doesn't want to be asked for shit. Like he just gets asked for shit by everybody all the time. He goes out, sign autographs. So like, if you're one of his closest friends, you don't want to be the guy. It's like, hey, Mike, can you sign me 10 things? And like, I'm going to ship around because it's like, that's not what you want to do. It's the same thing. Like someone asked me, even as simple as like a transfer, when I'm streaming on Twitch, and I got 40 things going and someone asked me for a transfer when I'm streaming or playing. It's like, my man, like, it's not just a matter of thing. I got to mark it down. I got to go log in and do this. I got this. I got like, you got to realize, like, when you're asking people for stuff too, you got to think about how would you feel? When are you doing it? How are you doing it? And, little things may not be little things, right? Like, it's just like becomes you can really put people, you got to understand who and what your relationship is. And it's not, it's got to be both ways, like, you want a favor, you're willing to do something for a guy, or they're just a good friend. But like, if you start asking people for stuff, like same thing about a guy who makes a comment, a little Discord comment, when a guy asks you like, hey, like, Ben, how's it going? Or, what would you do in this spot? And like, for him, he's just like trying to start conversations, whatever, but really it's like a kind of unreasonable request at times, or like without any sort of, or not unreasonable, just like not something that, he might be, what an asshole, he didn't respond, or like, how could he not just answer yes or no? Like, it's all perspective, and you got to respect people's time and space.
Yeah. And I also think that's where people confuse boldness with being dumb, because very often we say you should go for what you want. You should just ask. But then, I have people messaging me, hey, Ben, do you have time to look over some hands? Just 10 or 20 minutes. It's very important to me. It would mean the world to me. Yeah, awesome. Great. Like, I don't care what is important to you, dude. Like, I have my own stuff. So
right. That message was not for them to message you. That was for them to find a friend or someone they know in poker, maybe, and bring it up. Like, it doesn't mean put it all on me. And like, yeah, exactly. It's like, it's just, you can't take everything literal, and you got to, I get it.
And I think there's so, especially if you don't know someone, you have to make the first step. It's like, hey, say something like, I did this, like, you have to do something that helps them out or provides value. Or I actually had that with a couple of people that they did something, and I was like, hey, sure, like, if you want me to go over some hands with you, or like whatever I can do, let me know, and they might not necessarily return that favor. It's like, all right, I don't mind. Or I might never return that favor to them. It's like, hey, because they did it out of generosity. They didn't do it to expect something. And very often you can sense that if just someone is doing something just to get a favor in return. If there's a mutual relationship where, both parties have a mutual benefit, you just do it. And if you do it 3 times in a row, I don't mind. Like, with my friends, I don't mind, like, helping them with their moving 3 times in a row, even though I never move. I'm not going to be like, oh, but next time you're going to be helping me. It's my body. I'm going to help him. I don't care. I'm going to be there. I'm going to show up. And this is just something where people sense that. I think people sense that if you have an agenda. And, if your agenda should be just someone, make them their day. And if nothing comes back in return, well, so be it. Usually, you also, when you go on the street and you say hi to someone, or you see someone that makes you smile, and you just smile at them, you're not going to be like, I expect a smile back. You smile at them, they don't smile, like, all right, we move on.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. I agree with that. And it's a bit tricky though too, because, at some point, like, there's a saying like, no new friends, or, you want to keep your circle tight and do all that. So, in terms of like agenda and whatnot, like, this is a bit complicated too, because I agree with you completely. But, it's also like, at a certain point, you have your friends, you have your people that you deal with, you work with, and you're not really, I would imagine you're not really looking for new friends. Like, you have people you work with, you got your relationship, you have your people in your space, you have your friends that are outside of poker, so you're like actively probably not looking for like additional, trying to make great friends. And that's kind of where I'm at too. It's like, look, I'm all about giving people the time of day, or treating people with respect, but I'm also, I'm trying to spend time with my family and my core friends, and I'm not really looking to go out of my way. So it's like, when you start thinking, well, what can they do for you, or what kind of value? It's like, you want to have a valuable, if you're going to create new relationships, you want it to be like a mutual, like, respect of like, all right, this is where we have something that we share in common of an interest, or that you could give me some information. I mean, that happens a lot. Like, people, for example, will want some advice in something, or poker, they ask me for help, but maybe like they have something that I'm interested in learning a bit about too. So it's kind of like a natural, like, all right, you want to ask me a bit, I'll ask you a bit. But it doesn't mean that, like, like you said, if someone asks you a question on Discord, like someone randomly wants to know about a poker hand, it's not really a value trade for you, right? Like, it's like you put out a lot of content, you take your time, there's courses, there's free content, there's other stuff. That doesn't mean like for you to like spend time with somebody you have no idea who it is and answer like a 20 minutes of your time to do a question, that shouldn't be looked at as like you're not generous, or, it just doesn't really make sense for your overall pie. Like, so I don't know. I think it's tricky, and everyone's got their version of what's right and wrong and their perspective. And it is what it is. You can't please everyone. I think that's important to know too.
I had one guy, and I already shared that once on a podcast. He sent me a message, and I really appreciate his honesty. Like, it's not that he did me a favor. He was just saying that something like, "Yo, Ben, you do so much sport, but you look kind of fat." And I just, this guy just didn't have a gender. Like, he was just straight honest. So like, yeah, I probably have, or at this point in time, I was W-coop, for 2 weeks, you have a complete fucked up sleep cycle. I still did a lot of sports, but you were eating late, and here and there maybe ordered something what not necessarily healthy. All the focus was on Scoop and W, and I really appreciate it. Like, I want to have these people that, give me that straight feedback, even though was not the nicest, but like, he didn't came to me to ask me for a favor. He was just honest. It was worth for him sharing. I was like, all right. And even for some people, I feel like they give you feedback, they share something, but you have the feeling they want something in return, or something like, it's kind of, I don't know, this gut feeling is there that there is still a hidden agenda. They maybe at some point they wanted to ask you for a return, but this guy was like, he was just straightforward. And I even messaged him, dude, like, thanks for being so honest. Like, I will work on that. And it's something I really appreciate also my friends, this direct feedback. And if someone is not capable of doing that, like, then it's not a friend.
Listen, right? It's one of the hardest things in life, in my opinion, is how you're showing up. Like, you go about your day, you do your videos, your content, your way of being, you're with your friends or whoever. It's like hard to get honest feedback because a lot of people are worried about offending, or, if you come across in a way, you can't really, it's hard to go up to a friend like, man, you're cocky, or you're an asshole, or like whatever. So it's like, it's kind of hard. Like, I've done a personal development course before and stuff, and like getting honest feedback, how you show up it's very valuable, because it's very rare to get it. To get that, and if you have friends that are not yes men and willing to tell you and treat, give you their opinion, it is nice, and that's sort of rare. And in general, I feel like that it's hard for people to know how they're showing up. So, like you said, that's an example where the guy was just, and the way they do it, right, how it's presented. Because there are a lot of trolls, there's a lot of nasty people like, man, you're a fat dude, you're disgusting. Or
no,
like,
but it was still an explaining. He said, like, you do so much sport, but still you can see in your Instagram stories that, you have a few kilos too much. Like, what is it that you're doing? And it was a mix of being honest and just being interested in my lifestyle.
Yeah,
it's like,
it's good.
Like,
no,
I
it's
was
fun.
like, you're right. Like, I was just not paying attention too much to my diet lately for different reasons, but I will get back into shape. Like, it's good to have someone that reminds you of course. Then there are people, oh, you play like shit. I was like, oh, thanks for the feedback. Like,
I hope on the intro to this podcast you put the edits from the WSOP, the soccer game we played. That was. I hope that we get.
You crushed me. You crushed me. Yeah, Jeff. Listen, like, I know you're busy today. I don't want to take too much of your time. I think we covered a lot of very interesting topics, and I really appreciate the input you have provided. So thank you so much for showing up. Pretty sure.
Cheers, man.
And if COVID is over, I fly over, I come, and we do something together in Miami, right?
When I get back to Miami, I told you you are welcome, and I'm going to be not streaming poker, so I would love to. Yeah, that would be a good time, man. I mean, I had COVID. I don't know your status situation or what the rules are currently about traveling to the U.S. from where you are, but listen, you're welcome to come out. That would be nothing more I'd love. Do like I got a good. We would have fun. We do poker. We do content, like some studying. We could do nice training. It's a good place to be. So you tell me when you want to come, and you guys are whoever you want to bring is welcome. And
my girl. I will bring my girl.
You guys are in. I got a 21-month-old son that's the only cries a bit, and you'll but you're welcome to stay with us. So,
it's all right.
We'll have fun. All right.
So Jeff, thank you so much. Cheers. See you.
Thanks a lot.